Today we'll be solving LeetCode number 1732. Find the highest altitude. This is an easy problem on LeetCode, and it is also the daily problem for today. Now, to start off with the question, what have we been given? So there's n+1 points, first of all. Then we are given the fact that we start at point 0 and altitude as 0 as well, right? So 0, 0 is our starting point, and for every index, or like for every element in gain I, we gain some altitude based on that point, right? So let's say if the array had -1, then as soon as we started, our altitude would go down to -1, right? Because it would be 0, then -1. Let's say if it is 2, then it would be -1 plus 2, which is 1, right? So it would be like essentially just adding the altitude that we get. And what we want to find out essentially, right, is find out the maximum that we reach in this case. So at any point in time, whatever maximum altitude that we reached, that is what we want, right? Now keep in mind that it could be completely negative, like the question, like the example 2 that they're given, it could be completely negative, right? Every single altitude that we gain would be negative, but we start at altitude 0, right? So our minimum in this scenario would always have to be 0, right? We would always have 0, essentially is what the question is trying to get at. So how do we do this? This is pretty simple. When they give you the explanation for -5, 1, 5, 0 and -7, all you have to do is consider 0, right? We start at 0, we go -5, then we gain 1, so we go -4, then we gain 5, so we get 1, gain 0, we get 1, and then 1 minus 7, which is -6. So what is the highest that we reach? We had 0 over here, we had -5 over here, -4, 1 and 1, right? So 1 is the highest point that we were able to reach. Essentially we didn't go above 1, right? So that is essentially the answer at the end as well, right? The highest is 1. So what are we doing? We essentially just did take 0, add -5 to it, then make this our current altitude, then add 1 to it, make this our current altitude, add 5 to it, and so on and so on and so on. So take our altitude, take our current variable, add it to some altitude, right? The altitude being the gain I, and then store the maximum somewhere, right? Because we will lose, like we can't just have one pass, because our one pass would end up with a -6, right? That won't give us the correct answer. We need to store this result somewhere. So we will store it with like a result variable, and that will be essentially the maximum of whatever current value we were able to reach. So if I wrote this out in code, then it's something like cur make that 0, result make that 0 as well. Then for alt in gain, right? So every single altitude in gain, add to our current alt, and make result the maximum of our current and our result as is, right? And keep in mind, I initialized it to 0 because if let's say we did do the same thing where we went to -5, right, our curve would become -5, but because it would compare -5 and 0, we would still keep our 0. So this way our minimum stays at 0 at least. Then at the end, just return your result, and that's pretty much it for this question.